Hello and welcome to the Ocean Impact Podcast. I am your host, Tim Silverwood. Our guest on the podcast today is Sean Doherty, who is the chair of Surfrider Foundation Australia. He's the head of brand engagement at Patagonia Australia. He's an author, a surf journalist, but increasingly he is an amazing environmental spokesperson. If you follow Sean Doherty on Instagram, his handle is Shauno888, you will see he is just a bold spokesperson for the current state of Australian politics and how we are treating the natural environment, particularly our coastlines. He was a key figure in the successful campaign to fight for the Bight. This was to remove the plans to extract oil from the Great Australian Bight on the southern coastline to prevent what would be a disastrous oil spill should it ever eventuate. And he's now lending his voice and his incredible insights and wit to campaigns like protecting bushland remnant habitat in Manyana, to the PEP 11 offshore gas projects off the coast of Sydney and Newcastle. He really is an amazing bloke, a true Aussie legend, passionate surfer, and highly respected. So this podcast was recorded via Instagram Live, and we have a good old-fashioned yarn. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I surely enjoyed talking to Sean, and can't wait to see where this man goes next with his passion for a sustainable future for Australia and our beautiful home planet. Thanks for tuning in to the Ocean Impact Podcast. Can't take the ocean out of me. Hi everyone, it is 5:30 p.m. on the 2nd of September 2020, which means we are going to be going live on our Instagram with a really respected spokesperson for Planet Ocean. It's Sean Doherty, and I'm particularly excited about this conversation. Sean is someone who I follow very closely for his views and opinions on what is happening, particularly in Australia, with the state of Planet Ocean and some of those very important things that we need to be doing to protect our beautiful coastline. And he's really done a remarkable job in mobilising communities, particularly the surf community. So we'll have Sean joining very soon. Little update from us. So we're a week into our Pitchfest 2020 campaign, which is an incredibly exciting thing. 1 week down and 5 to go. We've been really thrilled at the response that we've been really thrilled at the response from our community. Everyone has taken to the idea. They've not only have they sort of been following and liking and sharing it around, they've also been commenting and suggesting startups, which is great. Sean, who's going to be joining us, is actually the head of brand engagement with Patagonia Australia, who are one of our Pitchfest partners. And we actually be offering a prize pack to someone who recommends a startup. So get onto one of our Ocean Impact Org Pitchfest posts, and you will be able to comment a startup, and you might just win yourself a great prize. Speaking of Sean Doherty, he's tuning in now. Hello, my mate. How are you?
Hello, Tim. How you going?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. You're tuning in from the southern part of Australia. I'm up on the northern beaches of Sydney. You look a little bit chillier where you are. What's the temperature like today down there, mate?
Mate, I'm not really dressed for the occasion, but we're actually in a heat wave here. It was 21 today. People were falling over in the street. Like birds were falling
been suffering a bit as a result of lockdown syndrome, but you're able to get a bit of fresh air around you down where you are in Southern Vico.
Yeah, mate, we're free as birds down here. We've been really lucky through this whole thing. We've, even through the first stage and now this second one, which has been heavier, we've kind of been able to come and go. I've got the beach a minute down the road here, so we've surfed through the whole thing, and kind of it feels like otherworldly. It feels like it's happened somewhere else. It's not till you walk down the street and you see people have got masks on. You go, oh, hang on, righto, okay, shit, righto, we're still in it, but you feel it's just this weird pause that's happened down here. But it's obviously been quite heavy in some regards, but quite enlightening in others. We'll never get a period in our lives like this ever again.
Yeah, I'm sure we probably share a similar perspective there on all of this, and that idea of it being a pause is a really important one. I remember one of the books that really helped me in my environmental journey was one called The Great Disruption by Paul Gilding. Show that when we start to hit some of these major aberrations in our stable climate, there's going to be all sorts of disruptions. So this for me has been a bit of a sort of glimpse into just what that disruption might look like.
Yeah, it's like you think about it, like you'd rationalize what's happened. Like on the scale of pandemics, like this is about as mild as it gets. And you look at how it's just turned everything on its head. And that's, people allude to the fact now we've had this as like a trial run for what happens if there's some great environmental collapse at some point. What does that look like? If this thing's done that to us, where our whole society has been so, flipped on its head, like what would a big environmental collapse look like? And you like to think positively. But man, it's just like this might be.
And Bush, both sides of the best and worst of society, don't you? You see incredible community building and community momentum corralling around supporting people, but then you also get the people that freak out and want to just go and get everything they need and then run away and hide from everybody else. So you get both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, you get people fighting over dunny paper, and you got crews starting to delaminate a little bit at the moment as well. It's like this thing's been dragging on a long time. It's been a real test.
Has the ocean been a real incredible force for good for you during this time and for your community down there where you live?
Winter, not so much. We just had the worst winter for surfing you can, like, in living memory. But it followed on from like the best autumn. So we surfed ourselves stupid for like 3 months, and then we kind of all went back to work for 3 months. But it's been rad to watch. There's been a real shift because like I said, you're never going to get this period ever again in your life. There's no travel. You kind of can only go to the end of the road to your local beach. And a lot of people were off work. A lot of people were off uni, school. They had time on their hands. And it was just this mad period for surf, and people just got so fell into a rhythm with it. You had day after day and 2 surfs and 3 surfs, but it was every day you're going and going, and it just really reconnected, and with surfing in a real simple form too. You're not traveling anywhere. You're not, there's no pro tour. There's nothing else. There's just you, your board, and the beach at the end of the road, and that's it. It's like it was so simple and so magic as a result. And I think, from a surfing point of view, it's just a complete recalibration on anything unnecessary that existed around it. It's just like gone. It's beautiful. It was really, really good. It's like, it's been a shitty time for a lot of people, but man, it's like that aspect of it was it was big for sure.
Yeah, and certainly for me, I think just that realization of just how fundamentally important and valuable nature is to me. And I think there's been this incredible shift in in narrative, even from celebrities and a lot of spokespeople around the world, really upping the conversation on that connectivity piece. And someone just sort of commented on the chat there. I mean, that idea of pandemic situations like this being born out of our destruction of nature and really destabilizing all those systems. And, you know, this is a really good time for us to reconnect with that real baseline understanding of how fundamentally involved we are with nature. We are not separate and we are not removed.
100%. Yeah. Like, I've taken up bird watching. There's been so many. They're not here right now, but I've got a kookaburra war going on here in this backyard. It's been going on for like weeks now. It's the kookaburras against the currawongs, and it's gnarly, man. It's like, seriously, like a Hitchcock novel. There's so much life around at the moment, and I don't know if it's me just more tuned to looking for it, or the fact that it's kind of, you know, it's nature rebounding, and I don't know, but it's been rad to watch. And I think I'm not alone in, like you said, mate, it's like a lot of people have used this time to do a bit of reconnection. And you got a new sense of where you sit in the scheme of things, and all the human edifice and all the facade and all the bullshit and everything you make in your life. And like a lot of that, it's all gone. It's like, okay, what's left? You know, the kookaburras and the currawongs.
Before we get too much further into our rambling chat, we should probably help introduce yourself to the community. Obviously, your community is tapping in, and the Ocean Impact Org community is tapping in. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about who is Shaun Doherty. So, where do we start? Obviously, you're an author and a surf journalist. You're a newly appointed publisher with Surfing World. You're the head of brand engagement with Patagonia Australia. Where else can we take? And of course, you're an incredible environmental activist and spokesperson. You're a dad. You're a surfer. Have I missed much there, mate?
No, covered off. I'm spinning a few plates at the moment, Timmy. It's there's a bit on, but it's a good time. You know, there's a little sitting in the middle. There's a lot of stuff going on around, and I'd much rather be busy at the moment doing stuff than sitting on my ass just watching it go by.
And the reason I mean, obviously, you know, always wanting to have a chat with you, but really I've just been so blown away by what you've been contributing to this national and international conversation about the state of the ocean and what's happening around coastlines, particularly in Australia. And so, you know, I think our conversation today will swirl particularly around that, with the fight for the bite, what you're doing now as the chair of Surfrider Foundation Australia. But we may as well sort of go back and get a bit of a snapshot, a bit of a picture of what happened in your life to bring you up to becoming this voice for reason and appreciation of nature in the ocean. So do you want to give us a little bit of a glimpse at maybe where some of this started for you, where you grew up, some of those early formative experiences?
Sure, mate. Well, I grew up just up the coast from you at Foster on the north coast. We lived 50 metres from the beach. We lived like 100 metres from a national park. So that was kind of the backyard. So we were in the middle of it. We were there. That's all we did. You know, fished, surfed, explored. All that was our playground. So that's the connection, you know, there from the start. Didn't really have much of an activist background, but then I think back to it. My brother and I remember this occasion. We we were surfing a place called Janie's Corner at Foster there, and we were surfing, and we heard this almighty gurgle. We were the only ones out, and we looked around, and the water just went brown, and it was this huge cloud, and the thing stunk. It was the overflow from the sewage works, and we were just like, oh my God, this is just like it went from heaven to hell in like a minute. So we went straight in, went straight home, got glass jars, went out, scooped it up, put the lids on, went straight to the local paper, got a story done for the local paper, and then went to the local council chambers and dropped it on the desk and said, you guys can have this shit back. And we were just we couldn't believe that you would pump shit out on these perfect, and you know how clean the water is up there. It's like crystal, and it was just really jarring. And so we've had that sense, and we were punks as well, and we love to stir shit up, and so taking on the council was like fun. So
did you know that the outflow was there? Did you know there was an overflow there, and it was the first time you'd seen it in action, or was it a big surprise?
We knew it was there. We knew because we rode our bikes past the sewage work, so we knew it was there. But it was around the back side of it, so they were sneakily discharging as well, and we got them, because I made the front of the paper, of course, and but then I reckon my kind of journey ended up being like most surfers for the last 20 years is that they've been good surfing years, you know. You've been able to travel, travel's been cheap. And you live in Australia, it's a land of milk and honey, mate. It's like the coast here is just, you travel anywhere and just go, oh my God, get me home. So it's been good. And what that breeds is a bit of selfishness. You just go, mate, I'm just going surfing. And you haven't really had much to push back against. And it's only really, I reckon, in the last 5 years that you've really seen it, that you start to get a sense of that there's something coming on the horizon, and it's something really fucking bad. And it's been done by stealth as well. And unless you actually and it's the nature of the ocean, mate, you don't see most of this stuff. The problems are hidden. As you know, mate, they're hidden until they wash up on the beach. And they're hidden over the horizon. They're hidden, and you really don't know they're there until it's too late. But I think there's this growing sense in people now that, man, unless we do some shit now, there is something bad like that cataclysm that we were talking about earlier, man. You know, you don't want to pass that on down the line. We've got a chance here to stop it.
But you could just as easily be whinging into your beer at the pub, having a yarn with a few people and grumbling, but you haven't. Like you've positioned yourself as a very bold spokesperson on this. Like, where does that come from? Is it the old punk? Is it the wanting to rattle some cages? Is it a sense of duty or obligation? Like, what's really driving it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think there's certainly a punk ethic in there, and just, you know, and the style of doing it, it's just like these guys are easy to make fun of as well, and they're not used to being challenged. We're talking about big corporations and and they're not used to kind of people making fun of them, and so in that case they're actually easy targets. And I actually, mate, that my Instagram account is like therapy for me, mate. It's fun to go around and see all these atrocities that are happening everywhere and kind of lighting them up a little bit, and it makes me sleep better at night anyway. I get it out.
We might talk a little bit about your incredible Instagram feed and how you maintain that a little bit later on, but maybe we should just dive a little bit deeper into those sort of issues that you really have been rallying around lately. Do you remember when it really, in recent times, burst out that you needed to be a voice on this, and was there a catalyst moment?
It's kind of grown organically, I think, and obviously the bite is the key to it. Like, we've been involved down there for 2015. I think we started with Patagonia, first working with the Wilderness Society down there and the local crew down in the bite, and it was a bit of a sleeper issue at that point, just by the nature of it, made it so far away down there. It's so removed from the consciousness of the East Coast and everyone over here. But there was a sense that, you know, like the implications for this thing was pretty big, and that if there was some way for people over East to realise what was happening down South, then, mate, all hell would break loose. And people finally realised, you know. I think it's like, in terms of a moment, I think the first paddle out down here at Torquay was the first moment when I looked around and went, holy shit, okay, there's a couple of people here. Like, we pulled up that day and I was half an hour early, and I was thinking we might get a couple of hundred people down. Because again, Torquay's, you know, probably 1,000 Ks from the bite, still a long way away. And we couldn't, and I've seen all these cars parked. We were parked like 4 streets back. And I go, man, this is a busy day at the beach. Like how's our 100 people going to fit in here? It turned out all those cars were us. It was like, and we got down there and there's like probably, it's 3,000 or 4,000 people, and they were all just, and I looked at it and it wasn't a protest. That's what it was. That's the first thing that became clear to me. It was, but I looked around and half the crew were families, There were a lot of, there were tons of surfers, but there were tons of people who just walk the beach every day with their dogs, love the coast for other reasons. And it was this weird kind of Star Wars bar of all these different crew. And I looked around and went, man, okay, there's a real gravity to this issue. And and beyond that, again, there's probably more potential for other issues as well. It's like, it's the first thing anyone really stood up for en masse on the coast for a long time. So, Damo Cole and I, at the end of that day, we went, holy shit, we had a beer out that afternoon and went, mate, what is this? What is it ourselves?
So what was it? I mean, obviously it was the pinpoint of this entire campaign was the prospects of oil and gas extraction in the Bight and spill modelling that would show it would absolutely decimate the southern coastline and even the southeast corner of this nation. And obviously a lot of people wanted to stand up in defence of this beautiful, pristine coastline down there. But what is the undercurrent that we have tapped into in this last couple of years? Like, what are you sensing is present right now in attitudes in Australia and around the world in respect to how we're treating the ocean and what it means to, I suppose, in the context of climate change and environmental destruction in a macro level?
Yeah, I think we get a sense that if shit goes down, we're going to be the front line of it. Living on the coast, we'll see it first. It's already kind of happened that way. It manifests on the coast. I think also there's a growing sense of identity and a sense of self about people who live on the coast that really seeing themselves, who they are as people really identifies around what they do in the water and like beach walking and surfing and diving and whatever you do. You really take it on. And I think it's those two forces as well, that the threat that's it's posing and the fact it's become like it's almost on a cellular level for a lot of people who live on the coast, like you try and imagine, like I couldn't imagine, I've never lived more than 2 Ks from the coast ever in my life. And I couldn't do it. I physically couldn't do it. And I reckon most of my crew couldn't. I know you couldn't do it. It just wouldn't work. That's who you are. But you also feel so probably one of the most vulnerable kind of areas and habitats that's going to get caned if this goes the way they're predicting it might go. So those two forces together, mate, it's created quite a powerful little ragtag scumbag army.
So let's have a little bit of a snapshot then of where that Fight for the Bight campaign sits at the moment, and what else is going on around the nation, because obviously I get the sense that through your work with Surfrider and Patagonia and all that you do, it is industrialisation of the Australian coastline, and it is petroleum extraction and exploration that feel like they are the issues, right? So where are we at sort of in the nation at the moment?
Yeah, well, mate, it's same day here in Australia. They just keep on trying to roll this stuff out. It's gone from oil in the Bight to gas everywhere else. And my personal thinking is you've got to stop going backwards before you can go forwards, right? At the moment where the crew in charge here are driving us back, we're going backwards. So everything we dig out of the ground and burn is something that's going to have to be fixed down the track. So the more of that we can keep in the ground now, then we can actually start getting about business of actually fixing it and moving forward and cleaning up what's there and putting in systems that can run the place, cleanly. And it's all there, it's just this weird ideological, it's like a cult. that's got control of this place at the moment. Just where it's just, mate, there's just the dinosaurs that just want to keep doing it. And I think the important thing, the thing that we took out of the bite is that we can actually influence this stuff. There's a real powerlessness when you think of things that happen when you're talking about multi-billion-dollar companies and federal governments and lobby and industry lobby groups and they're like awash with money and you just go like, what like a surfing scumbag, what am I going to do to it? But if you get 5,000 surfing scumbags to show up down here at Torquay, suddenly they're listening, you know. And that was the other thing that we took out of this one here, this paddle out in Torquay. It was right in the middle of the federal election, and to watch the behaviours of the candidates and the parties around what was happening here, because this was the most marginal seat in Victoria, and they both they thought the election would be close. They were throwing money at it everywhere to win it. And we only found out that 6 months after the election that Labor was toying around with the idea of just giving the bite up, just nominating it for World Heritage, kicking all the oil guys out and nominating it for World Heritage just on what was happening here in this one electorate, you know, because it happened at that point in time. And we went, right, okay. So you kind of got control of the levers a little bit. You work out, okay, well, obviously they've got to get voted in. The elections are obviously the key points, but that's the one point where they really have to come back to you. And you've got a little bit of power, and that sense of powerlessness can disappear if you're presenting at the right time.
So what do we do? I mean, we sort of seem to be hearing a lot and having a lot of concern at the moment around what this post-COVID economic recovery looks like, and a lot of, you know, projects that you said there, like around gas, and it seems like a bit of a worrying time. Like, what's your sense on what's on the table and how communities are going to need to rally if they're opposed to some of this, particularly offshore gas extraction? Yeah,
well, look, you know, we learned a lot out of that Bite campaign. And now we're looking at, you know, obviously there's off your coast, you've got PEP 11 that's drawn up, and, you know, they're looking ready to go to drill out there, which, you know, whichever there was a sign that's how brazen these guys are. They're willing to drill off Sydney, you know. They're not even trying to hide anymore. They don't care. It's like, we'll just drill off Sydney, or we'll drill off Ningaloo. It's like, it's just so brazen. But at the same time, I think we're a bit better organised. And we know where the soft spots are. Like, we know a lot about how these things work and the environmental potential if things go wrong. But at the same time, we also know a lot about the economics about it. And the economics in gas are marginal at best. You know, it's not a good investment. That's why this recovery here, they're crying out, they want taxpayers' money to build all this infrastructure because they don't want to fund it themselves. And I don't want my tax paying for a gas pipeline. Thanks very much. You know, I'd rather go into a solar farm or for some new, you know, some infrastructure for the grid to allow renewables to work better. It's all like, that's the line. We're at the crossroads right now. They lock this stuff in. This is the danger, though. They lock it in, mate. We're stuck with it for 40 years. You know, you can't undrill a well once it's in production. They'll stay there till it's done, or until the market collapses, which might happen anyway. And then you've got stranded assets that the taxpayer again will have to buy back. It's just crazy. If you looked, you know, in no way you could look at this and go, it makes sense. It just doesn't make sense. You know, even on a short-term thinking, it doesn't make sense, let alone long-term thinking when you factor in the damage it's doing to the climate. So really important point in time here, Tim, that these next couple of years is going to be super interesting to see how this rolls out.
Yeah, and really just, I think, in the context of timing, you know, we have got this incredible coastal contingency constituency amassed now, and they are ready, and they're watching, and they're listening, and they're following your feed, and, you know, everyone, I guess, is just trying to get a sense of where next. Is there any you know, I think leadership is a great little conversation deviation we can take there. Are you picking up anyone in a leadership position who is sort of coming out and saying there's a better way of doing this, or presenting a plan where we can bounce back economically but leave the fossil fuels in the ground? Like, what are you sensing there?
Oh, well, politically, there's a bunch of them, but they're independents and Greens who really don't hold a balance of power, and it seems both major parties are beholden to the fossil fuel industry and paid off by them, bought and sold. So it makes that real. You know, you're up against the two majors are hard to shift. Then, there's political leadership there. What I'm seeing a lot, and what's going to grow a lot in the next 2 years is community leadership, and that's what won the bite. You know, there was no one really led the bite. There was no figurehead for it. Probably Uncle Bunner, if you had, was probably the one, but it was this whole series of towns all around the coast, and in every town there was one, generally like one person who kind of rallied crew up and said, look, and got people to paddle out, and that was, that the national paddle out where we ended up with 66 of them in towns. That's when you saw it. It wasn't one. It wasn't a figurehead leader, or it was community leadership, and I think we finally worked out we can actually work together on stuff, and if we pull together on stuff, it makes a difference. And we've seen less. We've seen that in play since. Like, look at Manyana, okay, tiny little town, 500 people, got burnt out in the fires. The last bit of bushland was about to be bulldozed into an estate. The locals rallied first, community, but then what happened was all the crew nationally started getting involved as well. Started writing submissions, started following on social media, throwing support behind, and it got all the way it got taken to the federal environment minister, and it's got to stay on it. So it got saved, and it was like, for me personally, that was really cool, because the Ulladulla Manyana crew were big supporters of the bike campaign. They really went, that was one of the real core groups. And a lot of the crew in other bits of the country all saw that and went, righto, you guys helped us, like, we're on for you. So, we're in small outposts all over the coast, but you can put us together. We're a fairly big, unruly mob.
Does it work because it is informal and it galvanizes around issues as they emerge? Or do you have a vision of whether it's Surfrider Foundation or another entity that tries to put this into some sort of more structured construct?
Yeah, you're right. Well, that was the idea with Surfrider. We wanted to keep that energy going. It needed a framework to hang off, and otherwise it does become a bit of a rabble, but the Surfrider is clearly the best framework to hang it off. It's got a great reputation. It's done a lot of good stuff here. We're 30 years in here in Australia, and so it's and Damo and I thought, well, this is probably the best place for us to be, to sit Surfrider in, and then whenever any of these little battles pop up and issues and in small little towns, we can just bring Surfrider in. But it also works. It works because it's loose too. There's a charm in that. The fact that it's just a group of locals, and it never feels detached from community at all, ever. And you saw that with Manyana. You had a shitload of people getting in behind it nationally everywhere, but it still looked like a community protest. And that's the beauty of it, and that's the essence of it, and it'll work in that way.
While we are touching on Surfrider Foundation, do you have a call to action yet? It sounds like since taking the role of chair and with Damien Cole coming in as a national campaigns manager, do you have a plan and a vision yet? Are you still doing some work on that? Any calls to action for people out there who may have an interest in getting more involved with Surfrider Foundation?
Yeah, well, obviously, mate, we're always taking members, Tim. It's a membership-driven organisation, and we really want people to feel like that. they've got some buy-in to it, you know. And like I said, we want this to create this thing that can move around and help. It can help Manana. It's over in Nurrup in WA right now, helping those guys. It's on the Northern Beaches with Pep 11. And the more people we can get into that, and the bigger that group can be, the more clout it's going to have. So we do need to kind of collectivise that. And so, yeah, at first, a membership at Surfrider, make a good Father's Day present. I'm going to pitch here. But
that's a good pitch.
Sign up, but we're really looking, and Damo Cole's in the centre of it, mate. He's just a monster. He just doesn't switch off. He's got the Cole gene, and he is going to go and challenge these crew. But we're also getting smarter at what we do too. It's, we're finding that you've got to be a little, you've got to play their game a little bit, and we know that, and we know which things kind of work a little bit now, and we're kind of getting better at it, I think.
How do you feel? I mean, a big part of what we saw with those national actions to strive for the win with Fight for the Bite was young people and families, and around the opportunities for innovation and what we call business as screws people and it screws the planet. So how about we change our lens and we look for new ways of doing things? What are you picking up and sensing from young people that you're interacting with and that other communities are interacting with?
Yeah, you're dead right. That whole bite movement was driven by two demographics. One was young crew, and the other one was families. That was I looked around. That was the revelation for me. Especially, intergenerational ones who've raised kids on the coast. Like I said, and that stuff's going to propel this movement down the track. But it's definitely a youth-driven movement. It's great. It's a whole mix of crew. Like I said, it's a bit of a Star Wars bar that we've got, Gen X, boomers, but the commonalities, mate, we love the coast, and that unites us. And that's what kind of brings us together.
Awesome. Let's have a little bit of a chat about some of the other things that you're sort of working on, and I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about some of those books that you've authored. So am I right? It was the Michael Peterson book. Was that one of your first sort of main books back in 2004?
Yep. Had no idea what I was doing.
Have I heard the news that it's going to become a feature film, or there is a film being made about it?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, good one. Yep. No big scoops.
Probably can't say too much at this point, but
no worries.
Yeah.
Good. Well, one book that did become a film was your Bra Boys book. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that one, or if you want, you can jump straight to your latest book, Golden Days, and tell us a little bit about that one too.
Yeah. Oh, the Maroubra book was a classic for me. It was pretty it was a heavy time too. You think back now, and that the Bra Boys things kind of faded away a bit, and Kobe's living in Bali, and you don't. But you think back to the mid 2000s, mate. You certainly couldn't pick up the Daily Telegraph without reading about them. They were up to something, and it was for me. It was interesting as a character study for a coastal town, because it was so different to where I grew up. I grew up in Foster, which was really mellow and and laid back, and Maroubra's just intense, man. It's still pretty intense today, but in that period, when those guys were through there, and it just gave me a real sense of the tribalism that's around this country, and how each of these coastal tribes present a little bit differently to the others, and in the case of Maroubra, very differently. But it was interesting, man. They're just full on guys, just complete, and it was mayhem most of the time, and they got themselves in trouble. But as a challenge to write it, that was I think that was even more challenging than writing than MP's book, for sure.
Yeah, and we actually had a chat on the podcast recently with Mark Matthews, who
Yeah.
really just an intriguing character, and obviously I asked him that question, like just how formative was that move in your teenage years to living next door to Kobe, and he was clear it changed his life entirely, and he wouldn't
Yep.
have got into big wave surfing were it not for that interaction with that community. So, but he talks at length about just how so many of those traits that existed in that small community can be translated across to so many other lessons that you can learn in life. And now he talks to the biggest corporates in the world with those lessons he learned in a raw community. It's incredible.
How's that for a change in lifestyle, huh?
It's such a change, yeah. Tell us about Golden Days then. You've written a new book that's about the history of Australian surfing. Yeah, I'd love to hear a bit more
Yeah.
about that.
Okay. Yeah, I got tasked with writing a book, like a set of biographies on everyone in the Hall of Fame, the Australian Hall of Fame. 44 of them, I think. And so what I thought is that, and they're all household names and big characters, and I thought, well, rather than skim through their life in 3,000 words and just list what they've done, and I said, like, how do I get kind of like a little deeper into them? I said, well, why don't I'll pick 1 year in their life and then just look at kind of where they were in their life and what their surfing life was like, and what society was doing around them and what surfing was doing around them. And so they became these little time capsules. It ended up being a shitload of work. It sounded easy in theory. I thought I was saving myself work, but I was actually creating more work for myself. But it's cool, man. Anytime, like any opportunity to spend like a few hours on the phone or in person with all those crew, those legends, man, that's priceless, that stuff. And they're just, and anyone, like all these crew, they've spent so much time in the surf. They're really, there's a strange kind of wisdom that distills in that time. And speaking to these crew, you kind of get it. You just go, man, that's why I live on the coast. Yeah.
How many of the Hall of Fame characters are there, and how many did you profile in the book?
Yeah, there's 40. Well, I think there's 41 in total. I added in 3 that will be in the Hall of Fame. Mick, Joel, and Tyler. They'll end up there in some point. A few of them have passed on. So I ended up, I don't know, like 35, 38 interviews. I sat down with them. But cool, man. For someone who works and writes about surfing, like, what an amazing opportunity. It was like, it's still, from time to time, it's still, I get a text message, it's Mark Richards. Oh, cool. Like, how fucking cool is that? That's like the coolest shit ever. Like, if you could have told 7-year-old me that was going to happen, like, he would have lost his shit. So.
Have you found the right balance now? I mean, it sounds from, as we started this conversation, with a bit of a glimpse into the many hats and the many roles that you partake. Like, how do you balance it all out? It sounds like a pretty busy life.
Yeah, got it. Well, for a kind of surfing scumbag, I've actually, in my later life, developed a bit of discipline, and really learned to compartmentalize things and know kind of what's important and put the right time aside for that, and just try and stay disciplined, with, and not let the containment lines blur between them. Even though all of these things all kind of pull in the same direction, with all this environmental work and Patagonia, and they're all pulling generally in the same direction. But to get them done, you kind of got to really, turn the phone off and stay off Instagram for a couple of hours.
Indeed, you do. Do you want to give us a little bit of a glimpse? Totally up to you, but do you have a bit of a vision for the future for yourself? I mean, taking the role with Surfrider, plotting out a path for the future of this sort of environmental movement. Like, you want to give us a bit of a glimpse at where you think you're heading?
Mate, I wouldn't know, Tim, to be honest. Like, if you had asked me a year ago, that told me you'd be chair of the Surfrider Foundation, I go, oh, that's a bit. I didn't see that coming. So where it's going to go, I couldn't tell you. But like I said, mate, these next couple of years are pivotal for the lot of us. In terms of, we're going to have to dig in a bit here to really fight for a bit of livable future down the track. And like, mate, I couldn't tell you what shape it's going to take for me personally, and I don't really care as long as we get the outcome. I just enjoy, but I actually really enjoy it. Like, I enjoy, and it's not an ego thing. It's not like I've accidentally found myself in this position. Like, I definitely didn't set out like this. But now that I'm here, I love nothing. Like, the day I got the call that the bite had been saved, man, I cracked a beer at 10 in the morning. It was like, I was just going, fucking beauty, mate. This is the best shit ever. And you're getting all these wins. And when, the Manyata decision, if you can get these and celebrate these little wins here, you do feel like, because it's pretty thankless shit most of the time. It's like going into, environmental work, you rarely get wins. And if you get wins, they get unwound later. And it's a constant battle, and you never really win. But it just feel, and you're facing this big dark spectre down the track somewhere, but there's just these little moments you just go, man, this is I feel like I'm doing something worthy. So, and I got kids, and and I'm always thinking, right, I'm not leaving the place a fucking mess for them to clean up. That's like, it's our mess. Like, that's our job to clean it up. I don't want to pass that on. So,
mate, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I reckon your entire community. I'm watching some of the commentary coming through on the Instagram live feed there, and you really are just so appreciated, mate. So I know you probably do get plenty of pats on the back and direct thanks for your work, and I'm just going to give it to you again. Like, thank you so much for all that you're doing and the community that you're really galvanizing. I might leave it to you if there was anything you wanted to talk about today that you haven't had a chance to chat about yet, or some final closing words, mate. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Like, what you just said then is, like, the way this wins is that we all do something. It takes some shape. Like, for you do Ocean Impact, getting these startups around and getting a business focus on it. For me, it's like, at the moment it's dealing with the fossil fuel mob, but it's trying to work something in the middle. Everyone's got something, even if you're just down at your local, there's something you can improve. And the power of that, if we can connect all of those together, then it's quite a powerful little block that we've got here on the coast. And we can get shit done. We proved it. So.
I love it. I love, especially to see you so charged up. You don't know the person behind the screen and that interaction that you're having with your incredible commentary. You could be forgiven that, you'd be stressed out or, not feeling in your prime, but I get the impression you're loving every minute of it, mate.
Oh, yeah, I'm loving it now. Like, the last couple of months have been tough because we've had the worst winter here for waves in a long time. That really tested me, and I couldn't get out and do anything. And it's like, but I surfed. I had 3 surfs on Saturday, and I'm kind of feeling human again. So this has been a fun week for sure. But all the better for talking to you, Timmy.
Oh, if anyone deserves some oceanic karma, it's you, Shauno. So let's come on, Mother Nature. All right, good chat, mate. Thank you so much for your time. Everyone, make sure you follow Shauno888 on his Insta and follow all the great work he's doing with Surfrider, Patagonia, and all the writing he does, Surfing World, etc. Good on you, mate.
Love your work, Timmy. They're turning the lights out here, mate. We're just about done. So,
see you, buddy.
See you, mate.
Get shit out of